Hi everyone, David Schuweiler here, and in this screencast I'm going to show you how to transform grading to be on easy mode, and that is setting up standards-based grading in Canvas. So first of all, what is standards-based grading? Well, standards-based grading stems from the question of what does a grade really say about a student? If a student earns a 94% in the class, what does that really mean? Does it mean that they were late on a particular assignment, that they fell asleep on a particular lecture? Does it mean that they missed a really important day of school? Or does it mean that they understand 94% of the content? Standards-based grading is all about transforming grading to really demonstrate the latter, to turn grades into a representation of what a student knows and can do at the end of a course. Standards-based grading is all about transforming grading practices. So the standards-based grading gradebook will look very different than a traditional gradebook. You'll notice in this example gradebook, there are no assignments here. There's no tests or worksheets or quizzes or anything there. The gradebook in standards-based grading is broken down into topics. So for example, the learning outcome 1.1 is all about thermal energy, because this is an example chemistry course. In this outcome, there are a list of objectives that students are expected to know and be able to do, things that students are expected to master. And a student's score for this outcome represents how well they've mastered those objectives. So for example, a student who earns a 4 out of 4 has demonstrated full mastery of all of the objectives in that learning outcome in that particular topic. A student with a 3.5 out of 4 still may have some things that they don't quite understand. Standards-based grading is all about giving students opportunity to be able to turn a 3.5 or somewhere below full mastery into fully demonstrated mastery, rewarding students for going back and relearning what they understand. Other students may also earn something far below a mastery level rating, and that can serve as a red flag, an indicator that a teacher may need to go back and intervene and to help that student and provide them with more support. So then the question is, why should you transform to standards-based grading? First of all, grades become much smarter. Grades really indicate what students know and are capable of doing. Students take responsibility for their own learning because when they see that they are below mastery for a particular learning outcome, they can then go back and take the initiative to relearn those things themselves and to seek opportunities to be able to demonstrate their new learned masteries. With that, students are actually motivated to relearn. There is an incentive to relearn because at any point in the class, a student can go from, say, understanding 30% of the class to really working hard and understanding 100%, and they should be rewarded for that. Tests then become opportunities instead of punishments. No longer do students have to fear tests, but they can view tests as an opportunity to really show what they know and to earn mastery points. You can also hold students to higher standards because students aren't expected to get it right on the first try in every situation. They're able to go back and relearn, which means that you can hold your students to a much higher standard. Feedback also becomes much more valuable, both for the student and for the teacher. The teacher can see much more directly what it is a student is struggling with. Students with, say, an 80% on an assignment may have mastered almost everything on that particular assignment, but may have 1 or 2 misunderstandings. By using standards-based grading, it's much easier to elicit what those misunderstandings are. And lastly, once it's set up, it's totally easy to run. So let's take a look at how this works. The first step is to decide what your learning outcomes are. The simplest way to do this is to use something like the North Carolina Unpacked Content Standards, where it divides all of the content in a course, all the things that students are expected to know and be able to do, into categories for you already. So for example, a learning outcome you might say is chemistry 1.1.1 here, and the outcome may have these objectives where students are expected to know and to be able to do those things. If you're not a big fan of the way that that's worded or laid out, you can also create your own structure, like I have here. So I've divided my chemistry course into several topics based on my own categories. And so I've created a course outline with all of the outcomes, okay, sort of divided into topic. And then in other documents, I've laid it out so that each outcome, each topic, like thermal energy, has a list of everything that students should know and be able to do in order to demonstrate mastery of this idea, of this topic. By doing it myself, I was also able to add my own content standards because of honors courses. So honors courses may require you to add additional learning outcomes and indicators of mastery. So let's look at how to set this up in Canvas. Once you have all of your content set up, and this is my honors chemistry homepage, just the way it's laid out here. But in Canvas, once you understand exactly what it is that you want students to know and to be able to do, you can come over to this tab on the left that says Outcomes. Outcomes are where you're going to import your standards. Okay, so for example, I've got my standards divided into several folders here, several groups. So my first group, based on my first unit that I go through, is physical properties of matter. And within that group, I have 5 objectives. Okay, because there are 5 main topics that I want students to know. So let's look at 1.1 for a second. Objective 1.1 is all about thermal energy. And so here I've imported all of the things that I want students to know and to be able to do. I've indicated how many points they have to earn in order to achieve mastery. And I've also indicated what they can do to earn above mastery, that there are opportunities for students to go above and beyond the content in the curriculum and to be able to demonstrate that they know more than is expected. Also, this shows both students and myself that the highest score of their demonstrated mastery for this particular outcome is going to be what's recorded in the Learning Mastery Gradebook. So for example, if they try 4 different attempts to demonstrate mastery on this outcome and they earn a 1, a 4, a 2, and a 3, the 4 is what will be kept. Because some students represent their understandings in different ways. Some students are better at tests, some are better at projects, and some are better at maybe, say, writing songs. Okay? And so I want students to represent the knowledge to me in the way that they are most comfortable representing it. So to set up your own content standards, I'm going to start by creating a new group. And this is just how I'm going to organize my standards into a single unit. So for this example, I'm going to start creating my 3rd unit, which is going to be all about electrons. And so within that group, I can add a new outcome. And from this outcome, I can take all of the information that I've created and say for topic 3.1, which in my design document, I decided my first outcome is going to be about the Bohr model of the atom. So I'm going to make this about the Bohr model. Okay, and I can also add all of my content in here from my curriculum guide and all of my objectives and divide and decide exactly what level of mastery I want students to achieve on this particular standard. Okay, so here by default Canvas gives me an option for 5 points, 3 points, and 0 points, dividing it up into just 3 indicators of mastery. But I really want to give my students more granular feedback. So I'm going to insert another box here, and I'm going to say that that's worth 4 points. I'm going to insert a box here and say that's worth 2 points. And another box between 2 and 0 in order to be able to give students 1 point. That way they can run the full spectrum between 0 and 5 points. Also by default, Canvas defines mastery as a level 3. But let's say instead I want students to achieve a level 4. And so when students get 4 points on this objective, that tells me exactly that students understand everything within this outcome. Canvas also gives you several options for how these scores are recorded. So you can take an average or a decaying average where the most recent demonstration of mastery weighs heavier than the rest, but all demonstrations are recorded, and number of times, most recent score, and the highest score. I usually do the highest score, but it's really up to you what you would have for your students. So I'm going to go ahead and save this new outcome and say mastery is here at 4 points. If you want to do this a little bit more easily, you can also use Canvas's Finder to find standards based on the Common Core standards or on the state standards, so North Carolina. And I'm going to look at the essential standards for science. Okay? And since I'm looking at chemistry here, I can find all of those standards from North Carolina. Okay, clicking through, and there's an outcome from North Carolina's chemistry standards, okay, aligned with explaining the energetic nature of phase changes. So either way will work. Once you've got all of your outcomes set up, the next step is to align the outcomes to a particular way of demonstrating a mastery, of assessment, okay? And there are two main ways to do this, through quizzes or tests and through projects or rubrics. So we're going to go and start with the quizzes first. So over on the left, I'm going to click quizzes. And up at the top of the page, I'm going to click this gear and click the button that says Manage Question Banks. Now I've got a lot of question banks created here, but I'm going to go ahead and create my own question bank now. And we'll call it 3.1 the Bohr model, based on what I just created. Okay? So clicking on my new question bank, I can go through and create my own questions. And Canvas gives you the option to create a lot of different types of questions, like true, false, fill in the blank, multiple choice. You can do short answer or essay, however you want to do it. Okay? Well, once you've created questions, and I often find it easiest to just pull questions in from a question bank somewhere. So all of my old tests and assessments, I'll just copy and paste all of the questions over into Canvas. But then once you're done, and once you've created all of the questions and selected which answer you want to be correct for each of those questions, I'm going to go over here on the right side and align the outcome I just created to this question bank. So I'm going to click Align Outcome, and in Objective 3, okay, I created Objective 3.1, and let's say I want mastery, so this will tell me exactly when students get a 4, okay? So I want mastery to be at 100%. I want my students to get all of the questions right in order to earn 4 points, in order to earn a level 4 mastery. And so I'm going to import that objective. Okay? Now that outcome is set here where it's at 100%. So whenever students take a quiz or a test with the questions that I've created in here, in this question bank, and I can add as many as I want, then it's going to align automatically with this learning outcome, 3.1, the Bohr model. So how do I use question banks in creating quizzes? Well, I'm going to go back to the quizzes over on the left side. And I'm going to create a new quiz. And I'm going to call this quiz my Unit 3 test. Okay? And so you can set up multiple settings, like allowing students to take the test multiple times, locking when the quiz can be taken, its availability dates, requiring students to have an access code, or even filtering IP addresses so they can only take it at school. But however, whatever restrictions and options you want to put on it is up to you. But when you're ready, and once you know exactly how you want your quiz to look, you can go over to the Questions tab at the top. And I usually add a question group. Okay? And so let's call this group 3.1, the Bohr model. And I'm going to link it to the question bank that I made before. Okay? So I'm going to scroll through. I'm going to find 3.1, the Bohr model, which is what I just created. I'm going to select this bank, and now I'm going to have my students, let's say when my students take this test, I want it to pick 5 questions at random from that question bank. Now when students take this quiz, they're going to have 5 questions pop up randomly from that question bank, and it'll be different every single time, and it'll give them 1 point per question. So what that means is that my quiz will automatically assess my students on their understanding of 3.1. If they earn all 5 points, if they get all 5 questions correct from this outcome, then the Learning Mastery Gradebook will automatically give that student a level 4 mastery, because I set that outcome, that question bank, to give them full mastery at 100%. And you can add more question banks to this as well. You can add as many question banks as you would like to a single individual quiz. So I'm going to click Save. And now I'll have my quiz. But there's a second way to do this as well. And in order to align outcomes to assignments, I'm going to go over and click on Assignments. And I'm going to create a new assignment. And in this assignment, again, you can call it whatever you would like. So I'll call it my Unit 3 project. Okay? And I'm going to scroll down, and again, you can assign multiple settings to assignments, as with quizzes, so you can decide how you want to take the points for this, and all of that as well. okay, and when you want the assignment to be available, when you want it to be due, whether you would like to make it a group assignment, and I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Oops, I suppose I need to have some way of setting how my students are going to submit this. Okay, let's click Save. Now at the bottom there will be a button that says Add Rubric. So I'm going to go ahead and create a rubric, and you can call this rubric whatever you want, like the Unit 3 project. And by default, Canvas creates a new criteria for you, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I want to align this rubric with an outcome. So I'm going to click on this button that says Find Outcome, and I'm going to go into my question bank or my outcome group for Unit 3, and I'm going to select the outcome that I created before. Now I'm going to make sure that this says that this is checked where it says use this criterion for scoring. That way, when I score grade students using this rubric, they will be able to actually automatically align with my gradebook. So I'm going to go ahead and import that. And now you'll see this little yellow tag. This yellow tag indicates that this is aligned to an outcome. Okay, and so it says that the threshold here is 4 points. So just like before where I said 4 points is where I want my mastery level to be, then I'm going to have these 5 different indicators. Okay, and so you can add multiple outcomes to a group. And even if you want to assess more things than just your content standards, like if you want to give students an opportunity to grow in their writing skills or presentation skills or collaboration skills or whatever it is you want students to really get from your course, I've added an additional category of objectives called critical skills for my class. So for example, I, in several opportunities, give my students opportunities to demonstrate their ability to collaborate on an assignment. And this is actually adapted from the ISTE standards. I just kind of took this and reworded it slightly to make it my own. And for this one, I decided to give them to assess this as a decaying average. Okay, that's because I want students to take every project and every opportunity to demonstrate the skill seriously. And even though it will reward them for growing by the end of the semester, so if they are pretty poor at collaborating in the beginning but really grow in their collaboration, then they can earn pretty close to 100% on this objective. And so I'm going to import that as well to indicate to my students that in this project I'm going to be assessing their ability to collaborate. I'm also going to click this box that says use this rubric for assignment grading once I've got all of the outcomes that I want aligned to my particular assignment. And I'm going to create this rubric. Now I'm going to make sure that my points are aligned, so it's going to prompt me to say that I've set it to be worth 0 points, but your rubric is worth 10 points. And so I want to go ahead and make sure it's worth 10 points. So I'm going to click change. Now when I grade this assignment using the speed grader, Canvas's default grading system, they will have 3.1 and collaboration as 2 of the objectives. And whatever grade I assign to them for their demonstration of mastery on this assignment will automatically sync to the gradebook for me. So that when you go to your gradebook and you click on that, and over here on the Learning Mastery tab, I don't have any students assigned to this course because it's a course shell, but you should see all of the objectives that you've created up at the top of the gradebook here. Okay? And that's it.